Hello and welcome to my channel once again. Anyways, I am sorry for the delay. I was sick this week and I really didn't want to film me talking about at length while I had a sore throat. So I thought now that my throat now feels better, my voice is still kind of funky. Now that my throat is better, I thought I would go ahead and do this video that I've been wanting to do and I've been trying to do for a while. This video is all about how to write a comic book script. Now, the reason that I wanted to do this video in the first place was because I searched and searched and searched and no one really answered this question for me. I looked everywhere on how to write a comic book script and everyone said, oh, it's just up to you, it's just how you feel like doing it, whatever. And I knew that wasn't true because I was taking a class on it. When I took the class, you were supposed to do it in a certain way. So I knew that there had to be some sort of dimension to it, some sort of way to do it. And when I finally learned how you're supposed to write it, it makes so much sense and it really helps you put together your actual art piece. Whether you are an artist looking to draw for a comic book writer, or if you are a comic book writer looking for an artist, or if you're both, writing a comic book script is essential to making your comic book. So one of the first things that I want to address, number one, in this video, is that you do not need any fancy software. You do not need Final Draft. I personally like using Microsoft Word, but you don't have to if you don't have it. Honestly, probably the best thing to go with is Google Docs, and that's because no matter what happens to your computer, you have those files, and that is an awesome thing because then you can share it to anybody, no matter what, you have access to it. I was having problems with my laptop, and because of that, I didn't have access to my scripts. And I was so upset because I had written all these scripts and I had not saved them anywhere other than my computer. Now, number two that I wanted to address that I heard from a bunch of other people is that not everyone writes their comic book script the same. Now, this is for a couple of different reasons. One is because everyone writes a little differently and they're going to put more description or less description, or they're going to focus more on certain aspects or elements. But one of the big things is whether you yourself are the artist and you're writing for yourself, or if you're writing for somebody else to do the artwork for you, which kind of rolls into one of my later points that I'll get into in a minute. Number three is that when you first go into comic book writing, especially for like one book, for like one issue, you want to write a summary before you start getting into each panel and each page. I find that this works best because then you have an idea and then later you can break those ideas down into parts and then you can label those parts. This gives you a good idea to go from to start writing. Now you get to finally go into the script, which is awesome. Formatting can be a little confusing. Once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard. It's just confusing trying to remember all the different things that you have to do, where you have to place your numbers and what words go where, that you have to remember where on your page and like whether it's bold or not bold or whatever. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, which I stated earlier, is that you want to think about this script visually. You want to take reference from movies, TV shows, anything visual that you've seen before, video games, certain scenes, what angles the characters are taken from, what is focused on, why that's intense, what makes it intense, all those things that you want to focus on and think about while you're writing. Obviously, like I said before, this is going to be different if you yourself are the artist versus someone else being the artist. But one of the things that I find super helpful for finding visual aspects that inspire you to think about how you want to write out a scene or how you want a scene to play out in your head is to look on Pinterest. Now, I know this sounds funny, But seriously, so many of my scenes are inspired by art pieces that I've seen on Pinterest, and just the ideas that are involved in the art piece can kind of bring out story elements that I didn't think about before, or I didn't think about how to visualize before, and they can be super helpful. And you can save those images and like save them to your file, to the scene, or however you'd like to save that, and make sure that you send it to your artist or you have it there to remind you when you draw that like, hey, this is what I want to base it off of. This is kind of, there's a certain element of this image that interests me or inspires me in this aspect. Now obviously you don't want to steal someone else's artwork. That is not okay. But being inspired by it in certain elements or aspects of it are awesome, and you should always find inspiration everywhere you go. The next part I want to talk about is to not forget about character description and environment description. This is especially important if you are not the artist. If you are writing for an artist, this is especially important, because if you're the artist and the writer, you kind of already have those ideas in your head and you're thinking about them anyways. But like I said before, it is awesome to have visuals, and it really helps when you go to the art side of storytelling. By giving these descriptions of both the environment and the people in those environments, it really helps you think about them and remember each part, each aspect. I think it's really important to have concept art before you start drawing the actual the whole thing. And I know that that can be frustrating, especially when you're in a process and you want it to go by quickly because you want to compete with other people. But it's an important process, and you really need to spend time on your concept art, making sure that everything is how you want it to be, because you don't want to put out this content that you made yourself and you're ashamed of it because it doesn't look how you wanted it to in your head. Obviously, there are some limits to how much art can do, or what you can afford, or whatever, but try to your best ability to make it what you really want it to be, and don't put out something that's half-assed. Also, kind of going off of my last statement that I made, remember that this is an art piece, and like all art pieces, to create a masterpiece, it takes time. It is important to give yourself goals, but it is also important to make sure those goals are realistic and that they make sense for what you want to be done and for what your abilities or your budget can handle. And I think I personally overestimated my abilities in that aspect, and I created goals for myself that were too short and not long enough. And that's because I'm doing this all by myself, and it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of concentration, it takes a lot of willpower to keep doing it. It's truly hard, and that's okay. And try to enjoy the ride, because it's about the journey, not the destination. I know it's corny, but it's true. And finally, for my very last point on this, make sure that no matter what about your story, that you are having fun writing and illustrating it. If you don't have fun, no one else is going to enjoy your story. No one is going to enjoy this story that bores you to tears, or makes you feel apathetic, or whatever. You need to enjoy it before anyone else can. And you need to do it for yourself. So have fun. This is a creative process, and try to enjoy it. That's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that this is not really the style of video that I've done before, and I hope you enjoy it. If you have any other questions about writing comic books, or creating comic books, or illustrating, or writing, anything, I am pretty well versed in all aspects, and I am super excited to help you guys. I do a lot of research on my own time, and I'd totally be willing to help you guys out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button or maybe the subscribe button, you know, and hopefully I will see you next week. Bye-bye.